Well, we're looking at rain moving in the overnight hours, and also it looks like it could possibly last even for your New Year's Eve. Good news is it may be moving out early in the evening. We'll talk about it coming up.
Evans on a rollout. Quick pass is complete.
It's bowl game season from the field to the Hall of Fame. We're looking at how the Triad is representing across the country. While your wallet is recovering from your holiday spending, there could be cash with your name on it just waiting to be collected. How you can get your unclaimed cash. But first, a man serving life in prison for a murder for hire killing in Guilford County is now out on parole after nearly 3 decades. The reason? He was sentenced under previous guidelines. WFMY News 2's Grace Holland heard from experts who explain the law and how it applies to this case.
Let's go back in time first. Leroy Winsell was the triggerman in a plot to kill his brother-in-law back in 1991. Court records say Winsell was hired by his wife's sister to kill her husband, Fred Brown. Winsell shot Brown along Highway 68 in High Point and staged it to look like a robbery before fleeing to Alabama. The case was unsolved until a few years later when Winsell was arrested on other charges. Investigators found letters which detailed the crime and connected Brown's wife to the case. Winsell went on to testify at her trial detailing the killing.
He fell to the ground. I walked over to him and I was scared. I didn't know if he was dead or what. And I thought if he wasn't dead, he could tell on me. So I shot him 2 more times in the back of the head.
He was sentenced to life in prison on a second-degree murder charge, but was paroled today after serving nearly 30 years because he was sentenced under old laws.
He would have to have been sentenced under the old law that we had, where everybody was eligible for parole. Now, being eligible for parole doesn't mean that you're necessarily getting out early, but you have the possibility.
North Carolina now uses structured sentencing, which mandates a minimum and maximum amount of years an offender can get for their crime. Ben Finholt says under structured sentencing, no one can get life for second-degree murder anymore.
People's sentences would often be reduced by half or more. And so as a move towards more truth, where people would serve the amount of time that was actually written on the piece of paper, on the judgment for their sentence, the North Carolina legislature enacted structured sentencing.
That law change only applies to cases after October 1994. Since the murder happened in 1991, it meant Winsell remained parole eligible. Legal experts tell me this is one of a shrinking pool of cases able to get out early through the old law.
Grace, thank you. Another high-profile Greensboro case is in the spotlight again, too, after Governor Roy Cooper granted clemency for Janet Danahay. Danahay was convicted for the 2002 Campus Walk apartment fire that left 4 UNCG students dead. She was originally sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole, but Governor Cooper's commutation makes her parole eligible starting January 1st.
My daughter and I visited with her about 6 weeks ago at women's prison, and she cried uncontrollably on what happened. If she could do it over, of course she would. But now it's time to let the governor's act take effect. What the governor's doing is giving her a second chance in life after a period of time that she has served.
Danahay's attorney says he will request a parole hearing on January 2nd. That hearing will determine if she will be released and the conditions for release. If that happens, Danahay will live with her sister and is said to already have a job lined up. The Winston-Salem Police Department announced who will be in charge of the department when Chief Katrina Thompson officially retires tomorrow. Current Assistant Chief Michael Cardwell will serve as interim. Winston-Salem's police says he served for over 29 years with the department in several roles. As for its nationwide search for the next permanent chief, the department says it will have a private panel interview the second week of January. Then the top 3 candidates will be made public. They'll be invited to an in-person assessment and participate in community engagement the 3rd week of January. They say the new chief will be announced during the last week of January. A break in the case that shocked the nation. A suspect was arrested and is held without bail in Pennsylvania for the November murders of 4 University of Idaho students. Investigators sorted through more than 19,000 tips before making the arrest today. 28-year-old Brian Christopher Kohberger is charged with 4 counts of first-degree murder and felony burglary. Investigators say he was arrested at his parents' home more than 2,500 miles from the murder scene. Forensic analysts allegedly linked the suspect to the crime scene in Moscow, Idaho. Police say they have not located the murder weapon but have found the vehicle that was spotted near the murder scene.
This is the first bit of joy that we've had in close to 7 weeks. We hope that they picked the right guy, and that gives us hope, and we haven't had hope for a long time.
We never lost faith that this case would be solved and are grateful for the hard work of the Moscow Police Department and their law enforcement partners.
The roommates were stabbed multiple times as they slept inside their rental home near the University of Idaho campus. Kohberger is a PhD criminology student at Washington State University. He lived about 10 minutes from the victims, just over the state line in Pullman, Washington. Investigators won't say whether the suspect and the victims knew each other. Legendary journalist Barbara Walters has died at the age of 93. Her career began behind the scenes. She was a writer at CBS in the 1950s who went on to shatter journalism's glass ceilings. She was a reporter at NBC's Today Show and then the first female co-host. When she moved to ABC News, she became the first woman to co-anchor an evening newscast. In the 1970s, she introduced personality journalism, which she used on both celebrities and world leaders. She helped launch The View in 1997, and it's remained on the air ever since. Walters retired in 2014 after more than 60 years of journalism. During a remarkable career, she not only interviewed the stars, she became one herself.
All right, we got to talk about our Hold Me To It streak here and see how we're doing. Ups and downs in December. The forecasted high was 61. We were at 65. That's 1 degree over the margin of error. So we'll start our streak over again, and hopefully we'll start with tomorrow. Our forecast calling for 58 degrees. One thing you need to know, that rain will start overnight. Now, this is widely scattered, right? Not a major event, just a little spit of rain here or there, a moderate shower or two, and 58, that's as warm as we get tomorrow. So here's what it looks like on our timestamp. We can kind of freeze this into the overnight. This is at about 5:30 in the morning, and you see it's just a shower here or there. Again, not a big washout. Even when the front itself starts to move through and it looks heavier, a lot of that pulls to the north. So maybe a heavier shower in our northwest communities in the mountains and thereabouts, but most of this should head out. Now, the best thing we've seen so far, models are trending to take this rain out earlier, so your actual late night New Year's Eve celebrations might be in good shape. We're going to talk about the rest of the through the holiday weekend and a little bit into next week coming up.
As you prepare to ring in the new year, your elected officials are thinking about their plans for 2023. For some Guilford and Forsyth County leaders, the big focus seems to be on public safety and improving our communities.
Our numbers on public safety will be out in a week or two, and they are really trending in the right direction. And I need to thank our first responders and neighborhood community groups who have really stepped up to send a message that what was going on is not acceptable.
Without having a relationship or communication there with the team members, it's hard to actually have a communication dialogue with the citizens.
Well, some of the things that we're going to take into 23 that we're doing in 22 is more collaboration, try to make a bigger footprint in the community.
You know, we had a strong effort on reducing gun violence in the city, and we did see about a 25% reduction in homicides, which is a positive thing.
Mayor Joines and Vaughn also mentioned working towards affordable housing, something that's becoming even more important as businesses like Boom Supersonic and Toyota move in. Sheriff Kimbrough wants to expand SROs into all Winston-Salem Forsyth County schools next year, and Sheriff Rogers talked about the importance of focusing on mental health. We are just a few days out from the iconic Rose Bowl in California. Though it's across the country, the Triad's presence will be on full display. On Monday, a Greensboro football star who once took the field for Smith High School and later the University of Southern California and the NFL is being added to the Rose Bowl's Hall of Fame. WFNY News 2's Jalen Gilkey caught up with him before the ceremony.
Evans on a rollout. Quick pass is complete.
It was a big leap, man, to be able to go out there and go into a place that I was unfamiliar with. There was so much uncertainty, but I just knew that I would do the best that I could and see where things led.
Vince Evans graduated from Ben L. Smith in 1973, and at just 17 years old, he headed west to Los Angeles to chase his football dreams.
I got real lonely at times, because that was really, like I said, the first time that I had ever been away from home. And in this huge city of Los Angeles, it was so much and so big. But fortunately, my focus and my aim was to, get an education there and play football.
And that's exactly what Evans did. After 1 year at junior college, he found himself with a scholarship offer to become the third black quarterback in the University of Southern California's history, eventually leading the Trojans to the 1977 Rose Bowl in his senior season.
It didn't get much better than that, for a college athlete, playing in front of 106,000 people, nationally televised, and a great competitor in Michigan. I mean, it didn't get much better than that.
Fast forward to 2022, Evans will become the 27th Trojan to be inducted into the Rose Bowl's esteemed Hall of Fame.
I attribute all of that, whatever success I had, to my team and coaches and people back home, my parents, and everybody my brothers who just supported me, man, along the way.
Such a great accomplishment. Evans will be honored Monday, January 2nd during the annual Parade of Roses before the game begins, as well as during halftime at Penn State takes on Utah. A Triad High School marching band is also getting some Sugar Bowl action this weekend. Cummings High School's Cavalier Marching Band made it to New Orleans earlier this week, and they got to playing right away. The trip was made possible in part by your donations. Band director Gregory Milton says it was the community effort that gave these students this opportunity.
From the moment we stepped off the bus, man, it's been big smiles, the kids. Big smiles for us because many of us haven't been out here. So, man, just New Orleans, and as they say down here, New Orleans is just amazing. And as soon as we got down here, we performed the French Quarters. And I mean, just the love, man, can you imagine a couple of hundred people with their phones out watching the band play? And, they're known for their Cajun cooking down here, but we brought a little North Carolina flavor down here that they're not going to forget.
The Marching Cavaliers will show off their talents to the entire country from the Caesars Superdome during the Sugar Bowl halftime show tomorrow. Kickoff is set for noon Eastern time.
NC State playing in the Duke's Mayo Bowl earlier this afternoon, taking on Maryland. The Wolfpack coming up just short. How it happened coming up in sports.
Everyone loves free money, right? Am I right? How you can get your unclaimed cash from North Carolina. That's coming up. And while we're talking money, a Greensboro woman is over $400,000 richer after winning the Cash 5 jackpot on December 20th. Take a look.
I typically walk my dog in the evening, usually after dark, up and down the street, and that's when I usually say my nightly prayers. And I thought to myself, oh gosh, I didn't get to the store today to get my Cash 5 tickets. I'm pretty much an avid player. I like one ticket a day. And as I'm walking in, I thought, oh, I'll just get online. And I accidentally hit 6 tickets. And I believe if you put them in there, you should keep them. And I just hit, put it in my cart and checked out and never realized till it was after 1 o'clock, like the next day.
Penny Lamb says she'll use her money to help family and friends as well as donate to a local animal shelter. She says she's a saver, but she might even take a vacation with her cash. Are you a millionaire? That's the big question. Tonight's Mega Millions jackpot was $685 million, and these were the winning numbers. Listen up: 1, 3, 6, 44, 51, and 7. We'll be right back after this break.